All right. What's going on, A2D Nation? Welcome to the Strike Zone again tonight. I am Matt Downing once again, and we got another great show for you guys this week. As you can probably tell, the Phillies doing battle right now against the Diamondbacks, and that's what I want to get into tonight as we start here. So, with the Phillies just getting going here against the Diamondbacks, game 2 of a 3-game series. And right before we get into the Atlanta Braves series coming up afterwards, we're looking right now at the Phillies and not in a great spot, but in a similar spot as they were last year. Obviously, different circumstances, and we're going to get into tonight what is the difference in terms of the struggles going with this team this year versus last year. Bryson, Stott, Kyle Schwarber, we're getting close to June now. And we're looking for the Phillies to really start to get going here, especially hitting, with the inconsistency all up and down the lineup. We're going to get into looking at the order tonight and seeing what the Phillies can do going forward here. And now with the apparent Brandon Marsh injury situation, what the lineup's going to look like going forward. And obviously, speaking of the NL East, we look forward to later in this week when we get to verse the NL East, defending NL East champion and playoff losers, division round losers, the Atlanta Braves. And it'll be our first time with the Braves this year for the Phillies. And we're going to get into that series. And obviously the Braves, first place, Phillies not. But we're going to look into what the Phillies can do to get going and look to some positives going into that series. So, because there hasn't been a lot of positives with the Phillies right now, and the one biggest negative is the starting pitching. And we look at specifically tonight. We're going to get into the top 3, especially in our rotation: Nola, Wheeler, and I'll put Ranger back in there, but also Taijuan Walker right now. 3 guys that have struggled mightily, and we're going to get into why I think they've been struggling and what they can do to kind of get their to get back in it, and the Phillies just give up. As soon as I say that, now 2-0 Diamondbacks, so can't make that up. And we're gonna get into the Phillies offense too, why they're struggling with runners in scoring position. So we're gonna get into it tonight, and obviously I'll finish off with my fantasy picks of the week. So welcome to the Strike Zone tonight. Let's get into it.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Embarrassed! He's flying! Welcome in. It's almost time.
Love that intro. All right, so what's going on, everyone, tonight? The Phillies kicking it off tonight for us, and of course, we're already in the hole as usual for the Phillies. 2-0. I'm just looking at it right now. Of course, 2-run homer. That's just wonderful start. So Phillies obviously playing from behind again, which seems to be the theme for the Phillies to start this season. Always having to come from behind with the way our starting pitching is going. But and of course, I think that was off of Matt Strahm from the looks of it. Yeah, it was. Okay. So Matt Strahm, who shouldn't even be a starter for us right now. He was signed for us 2 years, $15 million to be that long reliever type guy, have to come in situations which he's been having to do every single start because of what our starting pitching has been doing right now and the lack of depth that we've had. And just the absolute overall disappointment of the Phillies starting pitching so far this year. He's really had to become a starter. And that was definitely not the intention. If you would ask the Phillies going into the offseason, Matt Strahm was not ever supposed to be in the starting rotation. But not only has he been in the starting rotation, he's actually been one of our best. He's actually been our best starter. And of course, as I say that now that the 2-run homer just happened, but I think it's just, I think it's kind of crazy that, we're expecting like this guy to go out there and, give us 3, 4 innings, 5 innings every start when that's really not what he's supposed to be doing. But I got to give Matt Strahm credit though, because he has been an absolute Philly type player. I've watched his interviews. He's just, he's got the hair, he's got the flow. He looks like a Philly type guy. And he just has that attitude about him. He's got, when he's out there on the mound, I just really like the guy. He's obviously a David Dombrowski guy, going back to the Red Sox days, but I think, going back, looking at Strom and looking at where we are in the starting rotation right now, which has definitely been the biggest struggle for the Phillies in the early part of this season. I know everybody wants to look at the lineup. Yes, with Trey Turner and, Kyle Schwarber. I mean, guys that have been struggling mightily to start this season. And really as a team, the Phillies really just have not hit consistently all at once as a team. And that always seems to be the problem with the Phillies, doesn't it? Like every single year, I don't know what it is. And now, well, in the past, it was definitely lack of talent, for the last 10 years before we got Bryce. We know why the Phillies were as bad as they were. If you can remember some of those names. Actually, here's a good question. If anybody remembers, who's your favorite player from I'll put the dark years, from the after 2011 and before we got Bryce, like just some of the names, like give me the most random guy from one of those Phillies teams. Just like a guy that you remember, like just some random guy. And if you have a moment, that would be great. Cause those years, I still can't even believe that it lasted. Excuse me. I still can't believe those years even lasted as long as they did. But what's going on, guys? Mike and Jake, what's going on, guys? Of course, the Phillies already being down tonight again to start the game. So, I'm going to have to we're going to definitely get into that Braves series. But, it's going to take a lot for me to, talk positive about this team right now going into that series. That's for sure, especially with the way the Braves are playing. Well, we're going to get into that. But, I definitely share your concerns right there. I can definitely see that. But just remember, who won in the playoffs last year, it just, it only takes one series to get guys on the right track again, to get guys going, hitting is contagious, and as we've seen with this team, once this team gets going all together at once, amazing things can happen. So, but we're going to get into that a little bit later, Jake, but I appreciate that right there in the beginning here. So, all right. So let's get into the Phillies right now tonight. All right. So we're getting into this, Diamondbacks, who have played pretty well actually to start the year. They have some really good players on their team. A lot of young, good talent on the Diamondbacks. In a couple of years, this is a team that maybe, we're talking about, future NLS contender, in the next couple of years here, especially with now that they got a top line Cy Young contending starter in Zach Allen, who the Phillies will be versing tomorrow. He's going to be going up against Ranger Suarez, I believe, tomorrow. And so that's going to be a tough matchup for the Phillies tomorrow. And it's going to be very paramount that they get the win tonight because you're looking at a sweep against one of the top pitchers in baseball tomorrow. So, and with a guy also in Ranger Suarez who has just come back and really has not looked great. In his first two starts. I mean, the first start, look at the last start, he definitely was not good. His control that second inning was just like, and it seems that it's just like, take your pick of which Phillies players have had, Phillies starting pitchers this year have had a game where they start off and they have a great first inning, second inning, and just goes, 1, 2, 3, like Matt Strom tonight, 1, 2, 3, first inning, it was like 8 pitches, first inning, got the double play. And then second inning, 2 outs, then, base hit and then home run. And it's just like, it just seems for these pitchers, it just seems to fall apart for them so quickly and so often. I mean, you can't look at one guy I can't honestly, for me personally right now. I mean, it's, I've been trying to ward off the concern from what I've been seeing from the Phillies starting pitchers. Because the lineup, I'll get into that after, but I'm not as concerned with the lineup, honestly, because we have all-stars in that lineup, top to bottom. I mean, the top 6 of our lineup, if you get them going, it's the best top 6 in all of baseball. That's what we have the potential in our lineup to have. We have the potential to have one of the top lineups in all of baseball. So I'm not as worried because we've seen what happens when that team gets hot, obviously, last year. So we know what's going to happen with that lineup. And, when all these guys start getting going, obviously we got Schwarber Fest coming up, here, Hoagie Fest, Schwarber, now named Schwarber Fest coming up in June here very soon. And obviously Schwarber just hit a home run last night. So hopefully we're hoping Schwarber's going to get going soon because he really needs to. He's been walking a lot, but obviously he's been getting his home runs. He's got, I believe, 12 now. But that 176 average is not gonna cut it going forward, obviously. So, and that's been the thing with a lot of these guys. It's just they've been consistently so inconsistent. Put that on a t-shirt for tonight for the Phillies. That's the slogan for tonight. The Phillies are so consistently inconsistent. It's unbelievable. Just what this team, the talent that they have. I mean, like, that's the thing. The talent is like, eventually talent's going to win out, I think. And we've seen that last year. Like, even guys when like Amuno Sosa made a name for himself, Brandon Marsh, in the playoffs, last year, making some plays, like, and obviously playing really well to start this year. But we have these guys now that have had all that experience. Like, we have this whole team has that experience. Like, this is pretty much the same team. And you're adding now, of course, we added the Trey Turner. We got Craig Kimbrell now in the bullpen, as experienced a closer as there is in all of baseball. So like, you're adding all this experience, like the experience is there. That's why it's just so frustrating, obviously. And I get, for Phillies fans, and it's so frustrating to watch this team. Everybody, I get it. We've all been saying it. We've all been watching the same thing, like, just every night. It seems like such a struggle every year when this team starts. It seems like such a struggle to get them going. Like, it just seems like, all right, like, I don't know what it is, like the emotion, like, I don't know. It's like so many of the times the team just seems like they just go out there and, like, it's just whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I don't see the emotion out there except from Bryce, like, most of the time. But a lot of these guys, like, I expect to see a lot more emotion, especially from the veteran guys. Like, obviously Schwarber, like, he's been struggling, and he's, had his little weird moment with, with the lineup issue, like, there a couple weeks ago. And look how that went, obviously. So, I think it's a lot of these guys just have to take the responsibility on themselves. And, I was talking about some of my friends this week and going into, like, with Rob Thompson. And of course, looking back at last year, Phillies, obviously we fired Girardi. We were 8 games under 500, 7-8 games under 500. We weren't going anywhere. I mean, the season was about to be done at that point. I mean, nobody had any hope for them last year. And of course, Rob comes in and Bryce gets hurt, and we go on an absolute magical, basically, I mean, those 2 months after, I mean, nobody was expecting us to really do good. And once Schwarber, had, June, as he always does. And then he had, then we had, JT get hot there, after the All-Star break. And of course, Bryce comes back and doesn't really get going, obviously, until the playoffs. So, I mean, like, it seemed so methodical last year, like, but it was always like the whole team wasn't getting going at the same time. It was always somebody was carrying us, and, like, other guys were trying to figure it out and trying to, really trying to figure out, okay, like, how do we get out of this slump? How do we contribute? And it's of course very frustrating, and as many of the years of Phillies baseball has been for the past decade plus. But I just think, looking at this team right now, I'm very concerned with the starting pitching. Like, I'm very concerned. I was trying to push it off, and, like, but every start I see from these guys, I mean, I'm watching the same thing every time. I'm watching literally the same thing every time from these starters, except for the couple, like, obviously Nola's had a couple good starts in there that, Houston and, just this past his most recent start. And, Wheeler's had a couple moments, but he's really not looked like Zack Wheeler, especially from 2 years ago. Cy Young, should have won Cy Young, Zack Wheeler 2 years ago with, in 2021 when Bryce won MVP. I thought Zack Wheeler was the best pitcher in the National League that year, definitely deserved the Cy Young. But of course, they were never going to give the MVP and the Cy Young on a non-playoff team, which, has obviously been the Phillies' biggest problem for the past decade plus. And, thank God for last year. But just looking at the starters right now, I mean, when you look at Zack Wheeler, Aaron Nola, and I'm not going to put Ranger in here yet because he's just getting back. He's started the season hurt, so I got to give him a little time to get going. But between Aaron Nola, Zack Wheeler, and Taijuan Walker, I mean, it's been pretty abysmal from these three guys. So, like, looking into last year, like, all right, so right now the Phillies are 20-24, right? Yes. So we were at the same exact record as we were last year, which is funny enough, right? Of course, consistently inconsistent, this team. So, the way we started last year and the way that the starters were a strength for us last year. I mean, like, you always could look to Zack Wheeler. You could always look to a combination of, like, Zack Wheeler, Aaron Nola, Ranger, and Eflin, when he wasn't there, but Bailey Falter obviously had a great, run there when he came up last year. Kyle Gibson obviously had his moments, wasn't very dependable at the end there, but he's on a first place team. Second place team. They'd be a first place team in any other division if they weren't playing in the NL East, but on the Orioles right now. But thank you. Yes. Good. Awesome. Mike, thank you for the update. Good. Cody Clemens. Hey, man. Cody with the K. I tell you what, he's got the bloodlines, obviously. Hey, we need a first baseman. Like, obviously, we're seeing all the names, right? Like, and I see earlier there, Mike, what you said. Looking at CJ Cron from the Colorado Rockies. I did see an article about that earlier this week too. The Phillies looking into obviously first base help. I think if you can look at it, if you can get a guy like CJ Cron, now obviously they might take into consideration he plays for the Rockies. You got to adjust those numbers, with the obviously with what happens out there in Colorado, the home splits. And that was the big thing with Aaron Nola, right? When he can't, if people thought he was going to be able to really be that same type of player, which he has been, like that Colorado thing, like I don't put as much stock in it. Yes, the ball really travels there. It's different than every other ballpark, but that guy's been a player for a long time, CJ Cron. I would like him. Obviously he's been, he's killed us a couple times. I remember last year I went to a game, Rockies came here, he smacked one against us. So, I like him. I think he's a good player. The big thing, of course, right, is the Bryce playing first base, thing. That's really what nobody really knows the timeline right now with Bryce, when he's actually going to be able to go into a actual MLB game and have no limitations on going in and throwing the baseball like that. We still don't know. That could be a month from now, that could be 2 months from now, could be 3, if they really want to play it safe. We just don't know. So that's going to be very interesting. That's definitely going to be something to monitor, the first base position for the Phillies. And also starting pitching help as well. Because Andrew Painter's not going to be pitching this year. I just don't see it happening. It's been so weird with how little information that we've had on it and how well I believe we have the full picture with him, and I believe he's just starting to throw right now. He's about to start throwing from what we've heard, but it's been, with how weird they were about it, and it was very concerning, and I'm still not 100% what's going on with Painter, but I can't see him pitching anytime before the All-Star break for sure. I don't think he's going to really pitch at all this year. I just don't think you're going to risk your top prospect, at 20 years old. What he is, he's just 20. He's 20 years old. Like, you're going to put him out there, especially with that concern. Like, what I mean? Like, the last thing you want is a young guy to have Tommy John surgery. That's the last thing you want for your top, and especially your top prospect. I mean, we went through it. Thank God we got out of it with Sixto Sanchez when we, were able to definitely see like, hey, that was going to be an issue going forward. So, traded him at the best time for the best catcher in baseball, and JT still is. So that was, an excellent trade. But, going forward, that's that's something, for first base, something we're going to have to monitor. But, but Cody Clemens, obviously, hey, I mean, obviously he's bounced around. But of course, we all know who his, the last name, who his dad is. So, I mean, if he can take this position and run with it, like, why not? Like, I'm fine with it. So, also, speaking of first base and help, I do see that we have someone getting close to coming back, and that's Derek Hall. Apparently, he should be maybe making a rehab start this week or next week. Next week, I believe, or this week. Actually, let me see. I'm sorry. So it could be this week, but it's probably going to be next week. So he's on the verge of coming back pretty soon as well. So that's another bat, a lefty bat, big power bat off the bench. But obviously, that's going to mean somebody else is going to have to go. Just like when Jake, Cave left, the last time. So, I really curious to see what they're going to do with the first baseman spot. That's a big question mark, obviously, because there's so many options what they could do. They could go, CJ Cron route, trade for somebody, keep playing, we keep the guys within. If Derek Hall comes back and maybe give him an opportunity to see what he can do. If you want to do that lefty righty split, maybe, but of course, that's not really going to work when you have two lefties there. So, it's going to be interesting to see. That's I'd like that though, because that's going to definitely be a big question for the Phillies going forward, that first baseman spot. And to be honest, I don't know. I think it's all going to depend on when Bryce Harper is going to be able to throw, and we just don't know yet. So that's definitely one I'm going to be monitoring for sure, and I think we all are. But because I think, yeah, I mean, preferably, like, do we want Bryce Harper to be playing first base when he's never played before? No, of course not. Like, that's not a preference that anybody should be saying right now, right? Like, I don't think we should be wanting Bryce Harper to play first base. I don't want him to play first base, especially coming off the injury right now. If, like, he wants to work all next offseason, going into next season, and like, hey, I'm going to make the position switch, I'm going to be the first baseman. Like, of course, it's Bryce Harper. So that, if that's what he wants to do, and you guys decide that's what's going to happen, and Reese is going to, and Reese will be gone. Then I think, yeah, that definitely, that's a possibility. But we might wait till next year to do that. So maybe looking at a CJ Cron, getting him at the trade deadline for this year, and just, being able to play Bryce in the DH spot, or, hopefully, obviously his goal is to be able to go back in the outfield. We know that. We know Bryce, that's what he wants to do. He wants to go back to playing baseball 100% with, no restrictions whatsoever. So, but that's going to be a while. So, yeah, but something to monitor going forward for them. So, but good, at least. And now, well, I just see, speaking of that team, that other team, that pesky team that I always can't stand, at the top of the division. They always seem to be at the top of the division. We always seem to be looking up at them. Oh, good. 3-1 Phillies. There we go. Just got an alert for that. There we go. Who's in pitching right now? Let's see. Oh, God, it's this guy. Great. Yeah. Great. Awesome. All right. So the Phillies just picked up this guy. I was just watching pregame live with Mike and Ricky beforehand. Big Ricky Batalga fan. But yeah, they were talking about the guy that we just picked up. His name is Dylan Covey. He's 6-29 in his career record in the major leagues. So that seems like a great guy to throw in tonight. So especially just getting him and just throwing him in there. Yeah, this is starting to get very concerning. I mean, the pitching depth for the Phillies is just, it's not there right now. And it's, yeah. And we keep throwing these random guys in. It's just crazy. Oh, play results pending. Ooh, okay. Interesting. Somebody will have to update me on that. So, but no, that's awesome. So, okay, well, that's not awesome. Yeah, because this is what we always do, isn't it? But yeah, damn, Phillies. Gosh. All right, so yeah, going into the starting pitching, right? Like last year we had four of the 6 starting pitchers we had last year. We had a 6-man rotation. Right now we have like a 4-man rotation, which, and barely have a 4-man rotation at that right now. I don't know how the Phillies are going to continue to do this without, with 4 starters right now. And, when Matt Strahm is your best starter. So last season, the Phillies had 4 of their starting pitchers have an ERA under 4 last year. Obviously Nola, over 200 innings pitched, 3.25 ERA. Zack Wheeler, obviously under 3 ERA, 2.82. So, they obviously led they were the 1-2 punch last year, right? Like, that's like, I didn't really always have. Oh, there we go. There we go. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Yeah, I have full Wi-Fi, and it freezes on me. So that was weird. All right. Yeah, what's going on, Brian? Hey, how's it going? Okay, so there we go. Yeah, I'm good now. Yeah, that was weird. Okay. All right. So anyway, what I was saying, yeah. So the Phillies, like, we were led by Nola and Wheeler last year, right? Like, you never had to really worry. Like, obviously Nola, like we've gone through Nola, I think, ad nauseum at this point. How consistently inconsistent that guy can be. The theme of the night here, but yeah, Brian, I know that's I'm just getting into right now with the pitching right now, bud. That's I'm looking at this, and last year it was like, okay, you always had Nola and Wheeler to like depend on. Like, obviously Nola, like I said, he had his, he has his, moments, but for the most part, like last year, like him and Wheeler, like you could count on them, especially especially in the second half of the season last year. Like, they pitched some absolutely incredible baseball last year. In the second half, obviously they ran out of gas in the postseason. but Wheeler obviously being unjustly taken out in that game 6. But hey, like these guys are the guys like you depend on. Like this is like, and you got 2 guys that are supposed to be, ace-like starters. I mean, Nola, this guy's expecting $200 million in the offseason. I mean, he's out of his mind. And like, I'll get into the pitching. That's another topic for another day with going into next offseason with these pitchers are not going to get the money that they want. I'll tell you that right now, especially some of these starters and Aaron Nola included. That's why he's not signed right now. Going into, didn't get signed going in the offseason. So, he can say he doesn't care about money and all that. Like, everybody cares about money, especially in that, it's just the way it is. Like as an athlete, like, you want to get paid what you're worth. Like and you should want that. Absolutely. You should. I'm not going to, fault any athlete, especially, guy that, if he is like worthy of getting paid like that, a la Ohtani, that's fine. Right. But this is definitely not Ohtani. This is Aaron Nola we're talking about here. And, going forward, like he's giving you no reason to think that he's going to be able to turn it around at this point. I mean, I know he's had his great stuff. Obviously, 2018 had that great year. Last year he had his moments too. Basically every other year, he's good and then he's inconsistent as can be. And this year, it's very inconsistent to start again after he was pretty good last year. So, it's just getting to the point where it's like, at some point, these guys have just got to say, all right, enough's enough. Like we are better than this. And they are absolutely better than this, what they have showed so far. It's been an absolute embarrassment with the starting pitch and what I've seen starting off this season. It's been an absolute embarrassment. Like, and it's the same, like I said, it's the same thing every night. These guys start off, quick inning, and then just immediately, it seems like they melt down like that, like the snap of fingers. And it's just getting to the point where it's like, all right, like what is this issue? And I can't figure it out. Like, I mean, I think it's just these guys like, and I'm like watching too. So I think maybe one part of it might be, is that with the amount of pitches that these guys are throwing and obviously the pitch clock, like I think that the Phillies are definitely being affected by this pitch clock right now. I'm not going to make that excuse for them. I am not making an excuse for them. There's no way in heck I'm making an excuse for them, but I think some teams have obviously benefited very well from it. You look at like a team like the Minnesota Twins with their rotation and how, with guys with quicker deliveries, like they've had very good success. One of the top rotations in all of baseball right now, if not like the top right now. So you look at some of these teams that have had pretty good starts, like, a lot of these teams, young teams, the Orioles, like, obviously Dodgers got a lot of young talent, obviously, the Rays, of course, we've talked a lot about the Rays here on this show. So, but yeah, you just look at like these guys are experienced veteran guys that have done it at a high level and successful for years. I mean, all-stars, all these guys have been all-stars. For the most part, for the most part, we got all-stars all throughout this team. So it's, at some point, these guys have just got to get it together, and you got to take responsibility, and like you got to go out there and pitch. Like I don't care if you got to accelerate, like you got to speed the game up, like you got to figure it out. And these guys are not figuring it out right now, and obviously it's frustrating on them. Like we know they're frustrated, but it gets to the point like we can't keep having these starts every single year. Like we always have to climb out of these holes, and especially with teams like you look at teams like the Braves, every year. I mean, just they're always consistent, right? Like they just play like you just watch them, you watch us, and it's like I don't know why it seems like such a struggle for us at times, versus like when I watch some of these other teams. But it has been obviously going into this, and it's not Nola, right? You're right, Brian. I mean, it's the whole staff. I mean, and obviously Nola is the easy guy to pick on, right? Like he's the guy that he's in a contract year. Like it's the easiest to pick on him. But yeah, Wheeler has been. I mean, the biggest thing, honestly, for the Phillies has been their control. Getting themselves into bad counts. Like that's been like the a la, and like you look at what Trey Turner, like his numbers, he struggled so much because he's getting into so many 0-2 counts. Like he's already had like 100 0-2 counts, and it's far and away the most on the Phillies. And he is batting under 200 when he gets an 0-2 count. Like he's batting like basically like Schwarber when he has an 0-2 count. So, that can't continue. Like you can't keep putting these guys can't keep putting themselves in these bad situations. And I don't know, like honestly, maybe like JT, the way they're calling these games, like I don't know that. in like as much in depth, obviously, what their strategy is. Of course, what they're talking about and what their game plans are going into games, how they're going to attack these hitters. I mean, what they have at their disposal and like the scouting reports. I mean, they have everything they need to going into these games. They know exactly everything that these hitters, they got every swing of these hitters they can watch if they want to. So, going to these games, like, I don't know if I doubt it's the preparation because, these guys have been doing it for this is JT. I mean, these are guys, Wheeler, Nola. I mean, these are guys that have, two guys that have finished in the top Cy Young, top, voting on the Cy Young before. Like, these guys, are no slouches here. So, yeah, let's see what we can do, like just putting ourselves in these bad situations. Like, and here we go again tonight. We're already down in a 3-run hole. Guy hits hits a triple. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. Has anything else happened? Thank God, no. Okay, good. Okay, good. Yeah, one step at a time here. So, but yeah, it's absolutely crazy that we always have to put ourselves in this just terrible situation where we always have to climb out of this hole every single year. Yeah, it just must be a Philly thing. I mean, it just seems to always be the case with this team. And I was looking at a stat today too. Looking back at the 08 Phillies team, which we all know and love that team. Still, my fondest memories of my sports life are watching that team during that run. Just that whole team. I mean, just that's the one thing I think that this team, like, I watched the team that went to the World Series last year, like, and the team that was in 2018 that won it. Just the difference in those teams, like, obviously, like, totally different constructed teams than what we had in those years, but like, and when we like the 08 team, like, that team was just so deep from top to bottom. I mean, our lineup, of course, we know the top of that lineup back in the day, all in their primes, my God. And then even with the pitching, I mean, like, obviously the Brett Myers, going down, getting sent down and coming back up and, being a totally new pitcher. And of course the Joe Blanton acquisition at the deadline and, just didn't lose a game for the Phillies the rest of the entire season after not winning a game before that. So, I mean, you had so many crazy things. And of course, it's just, it's amazing what that team did, but you just saw so much more consistency with that team. And I saw, like, they had a slow start that year too. Like, they started off very similarly to what the Phillies are right now. I think they were like 21 and 24 as well that year. They started off, very slow, famously, obviously, when 07, of course, they had to go on that, magical run with the choke artist Mets, of course, losing that, blowing that one in, historic fashion over the final 17 games of that season. Sorry, there we go. But yeah, it's like Brian, yeah, there's a lot of games left, obviously, tonight. Yeah, tonight, this season, obviously, yeah. In June, yeah. Like, I'm gonna give this team time. Obviously, the starting pitching is what I'm definitely the most concerned of right now, though, because until I see, like, these guys being able to, like, actually go have, like, actually put together, like, quality starts in a row. Like, obviously you're not going to win. Like, I'm not expecting these guys to win every start. Of course not. Like, it's not realistic, especially in today's MLB. Wins for starters are harder than ever to come by, especially with the pitch clock now, with guys getting taken out earlier than they ever have, and teams wanting to go to the bullpen more and getting those matchups and, getting into that throughout, later, the second half of games when the starter, they don't want the starter, obviously, to go through the lineup a third or fourth time. Teams just don't want to do that anymore. So, yeah, you're going to see a lot of pitchers not have the statistics and the win statistics that you probably used, like we've seen in the past. I just think that's really going to affect, some of these pitchers going forward now. But, just looking at what the Phillies are doing tonight, and just what they can do now looking ahead. So, all right. So tonight, like, we talked about the Diamondbacks tonight. Like, obviously we're into the game tonight. Like, we have Zach Gallen tomorrow. So, I mean, as tough a matchup as you can possibly get tomorrow. But let's look ahead, obviously going into next week. I mean, obviously after this series against the Atlanta Braves. And the Atlanta Braves, of course, they are the crown jewel in terms of what you want to see a franchise do and run a team. It's except for the Freddie Freeman thing this past offseason. But of course, they I don't think they regret that one bit, and getting Matt Olson and the team that they put together and getting Sean Murphy. This is a team that And of course, now the biggest thing with the Atlanta Braves, the biggest thing that we got to be talking about with them is the reemergence of Ronald Acuna Jr. again. So he's back to being his MVP caliber self right now. He's playing absolutely lights out, leading the league in stolen bases. He's second in batting average right now behind Luis Urias, who's still batting .383 on the Marlins. That's somebody I got to talk about more if he can continue that. Like I said, if he can go into like June, July, and he's still hitting around there, then we're going to have to start talking about him a little more. But yeah, shout out to him. He's batting .380 right now. It's crazy. But yeah, Acuna's batting .342. So he's second in the league right now. And he's just on an absolute tear. And if you look at the Braves right now, they've been a team on an absolute tear. To start this year, they had a tough stretch this past week. But, I mean, you look at their lineup, have arguably one of the best lineups in all of baseball. And they got 4 guys that have over 10 home runs right now and 30 RBIs. So this is a team that has really gotten off hot, start here to begin the year. And that's even with Austin Riley. He's been struggling mightily to start this year. But with Sean Murphy, he's been a heck of a pickup. That was one of everybody was just like, that's another Braves move. Like that, just going out and getting that starting catcher, trading a guy that was just an all-star this past year in Contreras, and then, just bringing in a guy that's equally as has an equal caliber, and now he's playing even better than what they got last year from that position. It's pretty remarkable, the job that the Braves have continued to do. Like, I got to give them credit, obviously. Didn't matter in the playoffs last year, though. But it does matter because in the regular season, like when you have a team that is put together like that is going to be together and will grow together and play over the course of multiple years, like that's obviously the best case scenario. That's what you want to do for your team. The Phillies have really struggled, obviously, to do that. They've really had to go through the free agent route, as we've seen over these last couple of years. But yeah, looking into this Braves series, like, so obviously we're looking at our question tonight. Which is, I was really hoping the Phillies were going to have be helping me a little more tonight and feeling a little confidence about this. But I want to see if, like, do you guys really think the Phillies are going to be able to win against the Braves this week? So, put tonight, regardless of what happens tonight and obviously what happens tomorrow with Gallen on the mound. Okay, like this Diamondback series is what it is. Going into the Braves series, like, we've obviously had a terrible start to this year. It is what it is. Like, we can't change that now, obviously. And we look at what, like, Trey Turner just said. He's like, yeah, like, I've sucked. Like, we haven't been playing well, and I've personally have sucked. But we have the talent. We just got to go. Like, we keep talking about it, right? Like, everybody keeps talking about it. We just got to go out and do it now. So that's what I want to see this team like. And everybody, I think, honestly, realistically, going into that series last year, like after we beat the Cardinals in the playoffs last year, right? And we were going to that Braves series. I don't think of course, I think everybody was saying it, but realistically, you take a poll of the Phillies fans and how they felt going into that Braves series last year. Nobody was really thinking we were going to win that series, like realistically, right? Because that usually doesn't happen. Like that doesn't happen. Like we don't go on like magical runs like that. That's something that's so rare, obviously, for Philadelphia sports. And like, yeah, obviously finishing it off at the end. But it's just crazy to see that, like, okay, we've seen like what this team can do, right? When the Phillies get hot, like we've seen it. And it's just always seems like we have to wait so long to see it again. But I know we're going to see it again. And why not pick the perfect opportunity to get hot and make a statement like, hey, we're back against the Braves this week. Away series, 4-game series. So it's going to be, we got everybody going in this series, except now seems like potential problem going forward for the Phillies. I was just watching before Brandon Marsh. He's got some shoulder inflammation. He's been out. He was out like 2 of the last games. He pinch hit it yesterday. He's out again today, but it sounds like he might be going for an MRI, and they're not exactly sure what's causing the inflammation. So that is a little concerning because the Phillies cannot lose any really more depth in the lineup. I mean, we've already lost Reese. I mean, we're, for the season, and obviously Brandon Marsh had such a great start to the season. And until guys like Trey Turner, Schwarber, and even Bryce, I mean, Bryce is obviously hitting, but we haven't seen Bryce fully come back yet, right? He's had just 2 home runs. He's not back. He's not 100% yet, right? So we're still waiting for, and we know that Bryce when we see him, right? We're gonna know when that Bryce is here, and we know he's coming. So, but yeah, like Turner, Schwarber, like these guys really got to start stepping up here. And I think they're over, and like you can just tell, like these guys are overthinking it right now. Like they know they're struggling, like they know the fans are on them, they know everybody's getting upset. Like it's the same exact thing again. The inconsistency, everybody's saying the same stuff about the Phillies, obviously. I mean, all you have to do is watch them and you see the problem is the pitching. And of course, just the terrible running batting average for, with runners in scoring position, just leaving guys on and just losing games that we shouldn't be losing, right? Having leads and, blowing the leads or just constantly putting ourselves in a hole to start the game where we're constantly down is not a recipe to win. And we know that, right? So, yeah, with the current level, yeah. I'm with you there, Dad. Yeah, well, yeah, it's been, yeah, I know. Gosh, after the Sixers crap, I just want to just somebody give me some life. And now all we got is the Phillies right now, right? Like that's what we got. So the Phillies, I think that's more kind of like partially on the fans too. Like we just want somebody to be good right now, somebody to be winning because we've had so much on just gut wrenching losses here in the past year. As Phillies fans, as Philly fans, that we've just the gut wrenching losses. It's been, great. The wonderful years we had over the last year in terms of sports, in terms of success. But obviously, the endings have all been the same. So, this would be the perfect time for the Phillies to get it going this series, and I think we can honestly because. It's going to come down to the starting pitching. We need to establish the fact that we need to have these guys go in and okay, at least you can give us 5 innings, 6 innings where you give us a chance. Because obviously you're not going to win the game every time, first, second inning. That's been the Phillies' problem as well. We'll have great starts in terms of hitting. We'll get, 4 or 5 runs in an inning, but then we just go through a huge stretch where we just don't do anything after that. It's oh yeah, you just got 5 runs and everybody put up a hit. And then after that, nothing for the rest of the game. And we've seen that too many times from the Phillies. It's always the same problem, right? It's always the offense just not being able to consistently put up runs throughout the game. And the starters just having an absolute meltdown inning. And then that just puts us in a hole that we can't climb out of most of the time that puts all the pressure on the hitters, right? That's putting pressure on Trey Turner. That's putting pressure on all these guys, Schwarber, as they should. But at the same time, though, it's when you're putting that much added pressure and you're not winning, that can compound a lot quicker. And, guys are feeling it. And you can see, the body language right now of this team is just awful right now. Except for, when they win the games and, of course, the daycare after the game. It's always cute. It's always, it's great. I love what Marsh and Stott do after the games. But, it comes a point where, we got to start winning more games so we can start seeing that more. And they got to get that feeling going a lot more. And against the Braves, that's the time that I really want to see the Phillies. Obviously, am I confident going into the Braves series? No, I'm definitely not confident. I'm not confident in these starters at all. Now on the only flip side, I'll say, I'll give a little positive light here. Obviously, I got to give a little something, for the Phillies here. The Braves have definitely had some pitching injuries here to start the year. They similarly have had some problems, especially last week. It really kind of showed that, that they're having, that they're trying to figure out their rotation right now too. Because Charlie Morton, he has not looked himself to start this year. In the beginning, he's pitched a lot better recently. And then, of course, Spencer Strider, obviously, we know, he's going to be a Cy Young contender this year. Obviously, ace for their rotation. But after Strider and Morton, Max Fried on the injured list right now, he was pitching great for them. But, another guy, inflammation, another guy on the injured list. And obviously, Kyle Wright, he's been, he's going to be out for an extended period of time as well. So losing 2 of their starters right now, Max Fried, definitely an injury to be monitoring. He's had some problem. He's had some scares in the past as well. So, and obviously, and I shouldn't say obviously, but looking at the Braves bullpen, that's always been something that's been so good for them, right? It's always been the Braves, but right now, they're still trying to find their closer right now. The Braves are looking for their closer. We think we found hopefully Kimbrel can continue to hold down the spot. Obviously, he's pitched better ever since that Dodgers game, like I talked about Dodgers series, after like I talked about last week. But the Braves, still looking for a close. Like AJ Minter, he has not been the guy. Kirby Yates, he's pitched okay. And Raciel Iglesias, he just came off the injured list, had a bad game. So, they got some like options there. Obviously, guys that have been closers before and have done it very well, but they don't have a closer right now. So there's some pitching. This would be a great time, especially with Max Fried being out, because he's been, except for the playoff game last year, he's been notoriously, he's notorious for killing the Phillies. So that would be great to see us take advantage of that, right? But obviously, with that lineup that the Braves possess, with Acuna, Albies, Austin Riley, Matt Olson, Sean Murphy, like that's a lethal top of the lineup right there that I don't feel good going into their home park, but obviously with the Braves park, it's kind of more of a pitcher's ballpark. So, and obviously scene of the crimes last year of, we had some success down there, obviously in the playoffs last year. So that's the last time we played down there, right? That was the playoffs, right? So that's a big thing. I think the Phillies are really going to have to utilize this week, is that feeling that, we just went we just beat them in their place. And we took the division crown. Like we took, the bragging rights last year, right? We beat the division winner, right? So we got the bragging rights right now, but they're the better team right now. And that's the way it was last year, right? Going into that series, Braves were definitely the better team going into that series. But the Phillies just, got hot at the right time. And why don't we do it again? Let's start it this week. Like we got Nola going this, Nola, Wheeler, like we got our guys going in this series, like, and Taijuan Walker, obviously, like we have our big three going in that series. Like they got to deliver. Like, and if you want to ask who I think probably would have the best shot at pitching well this week, like Wheeler, like Zack Wheeler, he didn't have like the best game yesterday. Threw a lot of pitches. His pitch count was very off yesterday. That's been his biggest thing, is his pitch, his control. I'm sorry, his pitch count's been high. His control's been off. But I think like that's the guy you want on the mound. Like Zack Wheeler, I want him to set the tone next week. I really want him to have his bet. Like Zack Wheeler is the guy I'm looking at this week. Like he's our ace. Like, if you put a gun to my head, like you got to tell me like, hey, choose Wheeler or Nola. I'm choosing Wheeler every time. Like that's me personally. I love Zack Wheeler. Like I think he has a way better mental makeup than Aaron Nola does in terms of going, being an ace, and actually has shown that he can, carry you. I went to that game, the Roy Halladay game, number day. And when Zack Wheeler pitched that complete game, I mean, it was just like, that was like, I literally was like Roy Halladay out there on that mound that day. I was like that, like Wheeler, we've seen Wheeler have just absolute dominant games, like where we haven't like, and we've seen Nola, but like not to the effect of what I've seen Wheeler do. Like he's got to go in there, like, and he's got to be firing. Like I want to see Wheeler. He's going to be my X factor in that Braves series. Like he's got to really go into that start and say, hey, give me the ball. Like I'm going to set the tone and I'm going to show, like, I'm going to get us back on track here. This is what everyone's expecting from me. And I'm going to go out and do it. Not like like, oh, I have to go out and do it. No, got to go out and do it. So let's see what we can do this week. I really hope we can turn around, because we know that these guys can pitch. We know that these guys are good. We know that we've seen it. Like we know these guys have the talent to do it. It's just a matter of doing it. So yeah, I sound like the Phillies, don't I? So, hey, I can't go out and do it. They got to do it. So I can just complain about it with you guys, right? It's great. So we get the fun part. We get to complain about it. It's great, but we don't actually have to go do it. So that's why we love it. That's why I love this, right? So, all right. So yeah. So let's hope the Phillies can really rebound tonight. Going into that Braves series, I think I'm going to say yes. Like I got to be the positive one tonight. Like I'm going to say they will win against the Braves this week. I think we are going to turn around. I think we win 3 or 4 from the Braves. And I think we get the season back on track. I just think something like good things are going to, like something's going to happen. Like it's only going to take like one thing to get this lineup going. I just know like with whether it's Trey or Schwarber or Bryce, somebody's going to do something in the series. Like I gotta have that feeling, because we did the same thing last year. We weren't expecting it, but then when it happened, it was it was the best. So I think this is, let's start it off this week, boys, against the Braves. I'm picking the Phillies to have 3 or 4 this week. I think Wheeler's going to have his best start of the season. Nola, I think he's going to have a good start too. And then I think Taijuan, he had a good start on the 3 days rest his past start. That's, like I said, compound effect. Let's get it. So I think all 3 guys are going to pitch great this week. I will probably be wrong, which is fine. But it would be nice to be right on that one. So I'm going to go with that. I think we're going to be all right next week. But yeah, let's hopefully tonight. I think it's still 3-1, I believe. Let me check real quick. Yes, bottom of the 4th. Okay, Bryce singled. All right, well, there you go. Hey, Bryce, trying to get it started here. Doing his job. Just hey, come on, guys, let's help me out here. So Nick Castellanos strikes out. Okay, that's all right. Well, Schwarber got a man on. Hey, that's so rare for him. So let's see. That would be nice. Yeah, let's start Schwarber Fest a little early. A little pre Memorial Day weekend. Oh yeah, you know what? And also too, yeah, shout out to any of our vets. Thank you for your service going into Memorial Day next weekend. Absolutely. If anybody out there, so absolutely, it's going to be a great week for sports, going into next weekend, and I hope everyone enjoys themselves next week. But and hopefully the Phillies will have a nice series. Hopefully have a really good mood going into that Mets series, but I will save that for next time because we'll definitely get into that Mets series next week. And Bryce was thrown out second. Hey, he's trying to make things happen. So, can't be mad, but I can be mad. Gosh, he's trying to make stuff happen, but yeah, there we go. All right, Phillies. Well, it's not looking good to start, but hey, we'll keep going there. But damn, all right. Gosh, this team. Oh. At some point, I would like to just relax and watch a Phillies game and just not have to scream the whole time. Well, at least now I can't scream because I don't want to be too loud for everybody here. But yeah, all right, Bryce thrown in second. All right, well, that's all right. So yeah, I guess I got a couple minutes left here. Okay. All right, so that was pretty good. Well, yeah, I got obviously my fantasy kind of highlights for the rest of this week. Yeah, I kind of guess I'll go into so got into the Phillies stuff. I think we've know what to expect from the Phillies here going in for the rest of the week. So I want to give a shout out to my good friend, my very good friend Cole. He gave me some of my fantasy. He's a big time fantasy baseball daily fantasy guy. So he always helps me out. It really helps me out by giving me his picks for the day. So and he's had some pretty good success. Obviously some bad success. Yeah, obviously, how daily fantasy goes as for the people who play it. So, but yeah, so I kind of want to run down my top picks for this week. And I want to give a highlight to a team that's probably one of the hottest teams in all of baseball right now, in the Texas Rangers. As the Phillies know, if we started off the season seeing what that offense can do, didn't we, to start this year? So, and they've been one of the best teams in baseball, 11-4 their last 15 games. They have one of the best offenses in all of baseball. So I'm going to look at 2 guys on the Rangers this week. Go with the team that's hot, right? Might as well keep going, right? So I look at 2 guys on the teams on the Rangers. Nathan Eovaldi, starting pitcher, and Josh Jung, a third baseman, rookie. So going into Eovaldi there, he's pitched at least 7 innings in his last 4 starts, which is, in today's MLB is crazy good. So yeah, this is a guy has had a lot of injury troubles in the past, but having a great start to the year, way better start than Jacob deGrom because because Eovaldi's actually pitching. So, but yeah, shocker, right? But yeah, so Eovaldi, great matchup going in against the Pirates. So obviously they've been on. Unfortunately, the Pirates, what a great start to the season, but have unfortunately gone back to being the Pirates here the last 2 weeks here. So I think it's a great matchup. Let me see here. I just lost my numbers. Oh, crap. All right, hold on. Okay, now it's loading again. I just had it already. That's right. Thank you, Yahoo. Hey, all right. So so Nathan Eovaldi, hopefully, so he's pitching tonight. But he's I meant he was pitching tonight. He was my pick. I should have probably started off the show with that, but that's all right. I'm still getting the hang of it. So, but yeah, he's pitching good. He's 5 innings. He threw 5 innings right now, only giving up 1 run. So, that's looking pretty good. Josh Jung, not as good at 0 for 2 right now, but he's been great. But definitely look for him the rest of this week. He's 2 home runs over the last week. He's batting 400. And he's had a great start to the year. 10 home runs, 30 RBIs for rookie to start this year. Definitely one of the American League Rookie of the Year favorites here to start the year. And then also, of course, we're going to stick with speaking of Colorado, good old Colorado, going into Colorado, but not on the Rockies. We're going with the guys with the rivals down south. Well, rivals, but the Florida Marlins, the wild card Florida Marlins right now, as it stands presently. But Brian De La Cruz, he's a young guy for them right now. He's had an absolutely torrid start to the season right now. He's batting 430 in his last 2 weeks. 3 homers, 8 RBIs. He hasn't put up a lot of steals of what but he's batting 5th in the line. He's batting like 4th, 5th in the lineup. So he's in a great spot. But going into the Colorado series, obviously Colorado, is always a place for where the baseball can fly out there. So, but he's been absolutely fantastic for the Marlins to start the year. Definitely one of my picks there. And then also I want to give a shout out. Hopefully anybody with Arenado in the Cardinals now. The Cardinals now. Like we talked about so the Pirates and the Cardinals, going back onto like basically one of my first shows, what a switch that we've seen from those 2 teams. Now it's back to normal. The Cardinals 11-3 in their last 14 games, one of the hottest teams in baseball, just kicked the crap out of the Dodgers this past week. So that their team obviously that has figured it out. They got a lot of talent too, like that. And that's why, look at the Phillies. Like you see some of these teams that have struggled here to start the year, teams that you always expect like to be good, at the end of the year, like the Cardinals. I'll throw the Yankees even in there. The Mets definitely are not in there, but and like you look at some of these teams across the league, a lot of the teams have struggled so far. I mean, the Rays have just basically been running away with the best record in baseball, and it hasn't been close this entire single season. So awesome. Oh, wow. Literally, Cole, that just happened. He just hit 2 RBIs literally right after he was 0 for 2 literally right before I looked at that. You got to be kidding me. That's awesome. Look at that. Cole, good job, bud. Another great pick for you. Hey, what's up, Rob? Yeah, Braves. Yeah, hey, man. I hear you. I hear you. I mean, I can't fault you guys for thinking that we don't have a shot going in that series, but this team, they've been in the situation before. Obviously, they were in it not so long ago, just 1 year ago. So, Pete, yeah, there we go. Hey, I like it. Yeah, I like the throwback, the Philly. Pete right there too. Awesome, Pete. Thank you. Yeah, man. Like, right, like we got the talent. Like, I know we can do it. It's just a matter of doing it. Like this team it just seems like it's just going to happen. Like flip a switch and then all of a sudden they're going to start playing well. I think that's what's going to happen. It just seems to be what the thing with this team. Like you just don't know when it's all going to come together for this team. And I really hope, but like I said, I hope it's this. I hope it's against the Braves because then we got the Mets after that too. So when we haven't played, we've played the fewest division games of any team in baseball right now. It's been very, very weird to have this late of a stretch where we really haven't gotten into any division games until basically Memorial Day weekend. So this is a big week coming up for the Phillies, and it's go time now. We went on that obviously. When Girardi got fired, we went on that win streak, when Rob got here and everyone was like, wow, like what the heck? Like that's all we needed. But that's not happening this year. We have the talent and we just got to do it. So hopefully we do it. But yeah, I think that's, that basically takes me to the end here. So let's go Phillies. We still got a lot of game tonight and yeah, keep the faith, everybody. We'll be talking about them all throughout the year, obviously, and hopefully we got a lot more positives to talk about next week. So let's see if I was right. Yeah, literally. Yeah. So, well, thank you guys. Been a great night in the strike zone. Let's go Phils, and hope everybody has a great Memorial Day weekend. And I will see you guys next time. Thanks. I'll have to come up with a better ending than that, but